from Berlin. Via Zoom, we are joined by Dr. Thomas O'Donnell, an expert in energy and political geography, and a professor of energy and strategic studies at Baghdad University in Berlin. And we have from Baghdad, Dr. Safwan Qusay, a professor at Baghdad University. Welcome. So let me go to Berlin and Dr. Thomas O'Donnell. Welcome with us, Dr. Thomas, in this part of the episode. We are talking about oil prices and their future, particularly in the next couple of weeks. Given what has been happening over the past week, many banks have failed or suffered major losses. There are global challenges that have affected oil prices one way or another. How will the the near future, affect the situation? We're still at the weekend, but maybe next week we'll have many surprises. What is your interpretation of what's happening and your forecasts about oil prices next week?
Well, thank you for having me this evening. A lot of what you're speaking about right now, the precipitous drop in the price of oil, is of course being exacerbated by the problems, for example, at Credit Suisse in Switzerland. The national bank stepped in to bolster it, and that stopped the decline for a couple days. In OPEC, the Russians and the Saudis conferred, and they were worried that they might have to make some emergency cuts. The price stopped, but then it started to fall again. So we'll see. The latest I understand on the banking front is that there might be some announcement tonight or tomorrow. The Swiss government is trying to get a marriage of banks in Switzerland that might, halt that and create more confidence. But aside from that, of course, if that continues and gets very bad in the world, it'll be very bad for oil. But let's put that aside. Say that's controlled. Going forward, the price, there's several indicators that later in the year, it is possible for the price of oil to rise considerably as China's production increases. We shall see. And the question is, in Europe right now, the GDPs are pretty soft. But there's no crisis in the way that some people had predicted, a big recession. So if Europe stays fairly strong in America and China takes off, it could turn around and go very much the other direction. This is the problem right now. It's difficult to see going forward. And of course, we have the problem of the sanctions on Russia. The Americans want to keep enough of Russian oil on the market so there's no spikes in prices, but at the same time, they want to squeeze the price that the Russians get with a price cap. And that's a bit complicated. Right now, there's a lot of Russian oil on the water in various places around the world, setting in ships offshore. The latest reports are they're having some trouble selling that. So right now, short term, the indicators are the prices probably continue to fall. Longer term, it's really rather difficult to see. It might actually go the other direction considerably.
Dr. Safwan, welcome to this part of the episode. Given this ambiguity and unclarity in terms of the global economy and oil prices, Dr. Safwan, we are witnessing maybe very low prices, particularly for the countries that rely heavily in terms of their income on oil revenues, particularly Iraq. How can it manage its own budget given these very low oil prices? This may cause a major budget deficit for the Iraqi government. The reflection of these prices in Iraq and low prices, how will it affect Iraq? It is clear that Iraq is trying to finance the government with 200 trillion Iraqi dinar in 2023. It needs a level of prices no less than $90 to cover this hypothetical deficit, which is 63 trillion Iraqi dinars, and it needs money badly. The reduction of oil prices below current levels, less than $70, will exacerbate the deficit in this case. Definitely, Iraq has around $20 billion since last year as a surplus. It can continue to maintain expenditure at the same level, at the the same levels for a short period of time. But later on, it may rely on the central bank reserves, which have gone up and reached almost 115 billion US dollars in the central bank of Iraq. But definitely, the financial policy does not want to fund the deficit through the bank reserves, central bank reserves. We don't want to have a deficit by more than 3% this year. I expect that Iraq, as part of its OPEC policy and its partners in Russia, they will try to control the production in this stage to keep prices above 70 US dollars. And also the United States is trying to replenish its stockpile of oil, which as it withdrew a large amount of the stockpile, and if the U.S. starts buying heavily, and if the banking crisis is pacified, and if central banks provide coverage for the banks that may fail at this point of time, then oil prices may recover. The international economy cannot stop production because the COVID-19 pandemic is over, and practically most countries are trying to rebuild their economies, and Russia is also unable to sell its oil given the price cap. This will definitely put some pressure on the production of oil prices, to put pressure also on the European Union to reduce the impact of the Ukrainian war on the Russian economy. Of course, Iraq does not want to be under any type of production cuts that may be in place or put in place by OPEC, as Iraq relies almost 100% in funding its budget on oil revenues. I believe GCC states may support Iraq and exempt Iraq from any oil production cuts, but under any circumstances, Iraq will continue to pursue its government objectives and to get Iraqis out of the poverty cycle. Let me get back to our guest from Berlin, Dr. Thomas. Dr. Thomas, you have said that the future by the end of the year may be, let's say, more will be better for oil prices. What type of input shows you that things may be better for oil prices by the end of the year? So far, from one month to another, we continue to witness so many problems and so many issues, and we have seen how the U.S. is trying maybe to start a trade war with China, and China is now entering with Russia in some sort of coalition. Things are not really at the best scenario now. So why are you optimistic about oil prices, but by the end of the year, maybe prices will go up?
Well, you make a very good point about China. United States has shown that it, has very good intelligence on what the Russians are up to, and oftentimes what the Chinese are up to, and has sort of surprised Putin, for example, by what they know before he launched the war in Iraq, for example. And now we had the Munich Security Conference here a month or two ago in Germany, where I'm sitting, and the Chinese representative there had planned to very magnanimously announce some idea for a peace plan for Ukraine, but the Americans exposed that they were actually planning to deliver weapons to Russia in the war. And what's going on now is the United States has been talking to Brussels and has been talking to Chancellor Scholz here in Germany, and I'm pretty sure what's being prepared is, as you mentioned, a package of pretty severe sanctions that the day after it becomes evident that the Chinese are delivering weapons to Russia, these sanctions will hit very hard and probably coordinated with Europe. So what does that do to the price of oil? Well, if in fact this scenario that you mentioned happens, it depends. I mean, if it's a big hit to the Chinese economy, then you get a lower oil price. But, tensions also lead the other direction. Tensions also lead to higher price. And it's really a wild card, this whole issue of what's going on with Russian oil. How much Russian oil will be on the market going forward? They're having great difficulty getting ships, selling their diesel products in India and China. That won't be really clear for another month or so, how successfully they're diverting the diesel from Europe under sanctions. That's the situation we have. And realistically, a country like... Yes, of
Thank you
course,
very much
of
for
course,
these insights,
of course.
Dr. Thomas. I really wanted to listen to you for more time, but we're running out of time.
Thank you, sir.
Very
Thank you.
much, Dr.
Thank you.
Thomas, for joining us all the way from Berlin, a
Yes.
professor of energy and strategic studies in Baghdad University in Berlin. And I'd like to thank our guest from Iraq, Dr. Safwan Qusay, professor of economics in Baghdad University. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank
Okay.
you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you for your translation. Thank you.
Most welcome anytime. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.